Alright, so yes, like I mentioned to you guys before, I'm going to take you somewhere that is pretty special, and for me now, this is this place. So as you can obviously see, we have now built a little bit of a gym. Last year during COVID, I wasn't able to get back to coaching again, and I tried to search around for other places I could get coaching again, start doing my own thing, coaching the adults, doing the one-to-ones, as I'm sure some of you guys might know, but I was finding it extremely difficult to actually find somewhere that was going to allow me, hence why this place has now become a reality. So I'm going to get into a little bit more of the detail on what the plans are for the gym, how we started it, etc. in a little while, but first of all, I just want to take you guys through a little bit of an edit, a little bit of a session while we're down here, and give it a good old christen.
Burn some bridges down. Don't want the world to see me now. Another lonely night that I fall inside my head, then I crawl inside my bed. I don't care if I wake up, this shit sucks. Got a bag that's packed and I'll test my luck on cliche. Look, another sad song and I got the freeway in my sights. Can I get some leeway even if I'm dead wrong? I don't wanna say goodbye, but tonight I'm desperate. So how do I learn to love myself if I hate everything else? Is anybody there to watch me drown? Don't help, I'm beating myself down. Why do I even try? What a waste of time. I really gotta shake that state of mind. I feel like I've been buried alive. I'm running out of time. I put a tough face on, don't give me questions. I wonder everywhere I go with no direction. Don't see the point, I've been feeling paranoid. Try and drown out all the noise, I can't handle my emotions. Something's gotta give, these words will only get me so far. I scream out into nothing, I feel like I'm going nowhere fast, like the same old story. Nothing ever new, I'm the world's most boring. Tearing me apart from the inside, I don't wanna say goodbye, but tonight I'm desperate. So how do I learn to love myself if I...
Alright, so there we have it. You guys have just seen the session that we had down here the other day. I am extremely, extremely happy that this place is now finally a reality rather than just a figment of my imagination and an idea. I actually now have the opportunity to get started again and get going. So, like I said before, I'm now going to sit down with you over on my nice little setup over here and talk to you guys a little bit more about the story of myself and the story of how we got to the gym so far. So, enjoy. Lovely stuff. Christy. So there we go, you guys have seen the gym in action and I'm extremely happy with where we've got it to so far. Now I was going to try and keep all this bit as short as possible, but to be honest it's pretty difficult to do that, so I'm going to have to tell you a little bit of a short story just so you guys can sort of understand a little bit more about myself and how we've managed to get to this point and actually get into the unit. So first of all, we'll start off with a little bit of an overview of my training experience and my experiences within sort of tricking gymnastics and this new world of flips. So it all started out when I was 7 years old, going down to gymnastics for the first time, and then I stopped doing gymnastics when I was 17, giving me about 10 or so years worth of experience, all in which during that time I was competing, training alongside with some of the best gymnasts in the country and also getting to work with a lot of the best coaches. Now I myself wasn't actually the cream of the crop, the top 1% you'd say, but I was still pretty good and I managed to get myself to a point where I could train alongside some of these people and get the experiences I needed, which would then help me later on in life. Little did I know that at the time. So I quit gymnastics around mid 2016, and at that point I had stopped training, but I was still really interested in fitness, growth, and actually wanted to start putting on a little bit of muscle. So I then started going to the gym normally about 3 or 4 times a week with a couple of friends from school. I'd done this for about 6 months or so, and then I wanted to take it a little bit more seriously and buy a pair of squatting shoes. And the gymnastics centre that I used to train in was also home to one of the best weightlifting clubs that there was in the country. And luckily enough, the geezer that owned it, I've known pretty well, and I know his kids extremely well. Then at this point, I go and get the shoes, go into the gym, I get a little bit of an assessment, some overhead squats, a few bits of this, bit that here and there. In the end, they say, oh, you can be pretty good at this. So I then start doing weightlifting about 5-6 days a week from that point. So sort of jumped straight out of gymnastics into weightlifting, and I've done that for about 2 years until I inevitably stopped doing that and then started focusing more on tricking. So I stopped weightlifting in 2019, and that was also when I would have started tricking, I'd say. At this point I wasn't going too serious, but I was just trying to learn some of the basic skills, the B-twist, raise, all the sort of foundational stuff. And it wasn't until sort of lockdown and up until this point now that I actually started to go a little bit more ham and get serious with trying to get good at tricking. So that essentially is my training life so far. 10 years worth of gymnastics, a couple of years worth of Olympic weightlifting, and about 2 or 3 years of tricking so far. And now we've got past all that point, we can now get into the coaching part of my life. So I officially started coaching, getting paid for it as a little bit of a career when I was 16 years old. At this point, I was only doing a few hours a week, a little bit of a part-time job, not really getting paid too much to do it. But either way, I was still loving it. It was my first kind of job and we were building ourselves up. I'd done some Saturday work previously when I was 15, but I'm not really going to count any of the coaching or little bits of stuff I'd done before that point. We'll just treat it as if I was 16 when I first started. Now, the first 3 years of coaching or so was pretty standard and pretty much the way that every single gymnastics coach or other person starts out, which is coaching recreational or advanced recreational gymnastics classes within their club. That was all good. I still really enjoyed doing that. I still enjoy coaching classes, coaching kids, all that stuff. But it eventually led up to this sort of past 3 years where I've been focusing a lot more on doing the adults and sort of one-to-one coaching, a bit more private work. Now, the way that I actually got into doing the one-to-ones and doing all the coaching stuff was through a guy that used to coach down at my gym and a good friend of mine now, Ben. He had started up his own sort of one-to-one coaching business, coaching adults, teaching people flips within the gym that we was training at, and he got it to a point where he was looking to get some more coaches on board. Now at this point, I'm in university, which I dropped out of, which is a completely other story in itself. But at this time, because I had this passion for fitness and this passion for weightlifting, I was getting my level 2 gym instructor qualification so I could then go and get my level 3 personal trainer. Obviously, it's going to take a couple of years to get to this point as it takes a while to do the courses, but in between, I was just going to go to a gym floor and pretty much do whatever work they had spare, whether that was cleaning the floors, working reception, doing whatever. I was happy to do it as that is what I wanted to do at the time. So I've told Ben about this idea, and obviously sitting there in his cushy, I think he rates the idea that I want to go do that. He can see that I'm a little bit passionate, I've got a little bit of ambition, and pretty much just turns around and says, yeah, don't worry about doing that. Instead, why don't you just come and do some PTs, come do some coaching with me? And I'm like, okay, cool, that's a no-brainer. I get to do the thing that I've been doing since I was a kid, and the thing that I actually enjoy doing, and the thing that I know the most about, and I can start getting paid more for it. No-brainer. So we started doing that, and after about 1.5 years or so, I really found my stride and started to get some regular sessions in. I was probably doing about 10 to 15 sessions a week at this point with Ben. Now at this point, this is where things changed a little bit, as Ben had decided that he wanted to go and live back where he grew up, which was a couple hours away from where we are right now, which is Kent. Now with that being said, obviously that then leaves the business open, and that leaves some of the people that he was coaching without a coach, and he then pretty much offered for me to take on the business and to take on some of his old clients, start my own thing, and just pretty much get going in business. So once again, this is now a big level up for me, as not only have I gone from just coaching recreational gymnastics a few times a week, getting paid a couple of £100 to then doing some PTs with adults, getting paid a little bit more for doing that. But now I'm at the point where I can actually run and own the business that all of the PTs and all of the people get coached from. Big step for me at the time. So obviously at this point then, I've dropped out of university, I'm focusing all my effort onto growing this business and getting it popping, which admittedly, it definitely did. And whilst I was going, it was going very well, building up, and everything was looking very positive. But obviously that then brings us up to the point that COVID happens. Now, first lockdown wasn't too bad, as after it, I was able to get back to coaching a little bit, but I wasn't actually able to use any of the gym facilities that I would like before. Instead, it was just a little bit of a room with my air track, as you can see in the background there. Now this was fun at the time, and I just generally appreciated being able to get back into space and get coaching again, but it definitely left me with like wanting a little bit more, or just at least having some space, some good equipment that I can actually teach people properly from, as it just felt like the level of service had dipped down a little bit. So second lockdown comes in, and once again, I'm not really stressing too much, as I've still got some money saved up, I'm still getting paid some furlough, I can keep myself afloat, and I don't really have too many expenses, so it's not as if I'm going to be losing out on loads and loads and I'm going to be in some crazy position. It's more just frustrating that I can't actually get operating, get my business going and actually work it how it's supposed to be working. I then obviously try and contact the place that I was coaching out of before to get coaching again, but after a little while it just wasn't really seeming feasible, and it wasn't really something that either of us was looking to really do anymore. So that left me without a space to actually be able to coach people from, and me in a little bit of a position of like, I need to find somewhere, otherwise I can't really run my business, I can't coach, can't really do anything. So I then spend probably a good few months going around to all the other gyms that I know of and I would be happy to coach out of, and asking them pretty much, would I be able to run my business from here, etc. Like offering them different situations. But none of them really seemed too up for the idea, nor did they actually want the idea to go ahead in the end. And At this point, I've pretty much used all resources that I can possible. I've tried to search for every gym I can. I've spoken to every person I possibly could about getting back into coaching, finding a way that I could do it, but it just wasn't happening. Now, as much as this time was a little bit shitty when it comes to business, when it comes to finances, etc. Now, fortunate enough for me, I have a very, very supportive family who always have my best interests out in mind. And I was offered this situation of trying to find a unit a few times before I actually said yes. Now, this is mainly because I didn't really want to have that pressure put on the family. And I wasn't too sure whether I wanted all the responsibilities that would come with owning a unit. Now, the reason why I said no a couple of times to actually get in the space before was, one, because I was still at a point where I was trying to find spaces to actually get coaching out of, and I was optimistic that I'll be able to find somewhere. And two, I'm a little bit stubborn. I didn't really want to accept that help, to be honest. It's amazing that it was there, and it's amazing that it was offered, and obviously I inevitably did said yes and took that support, but at the time I was just being a little bit stubborn and just really wanted to do things on my own, stand on my own 2 feet, rather than have to have some family members jump in and help me out in any way. But by the time it actually come round to agreeing to get the unit, timing wise, it did actually work out pretty well. My dad has had his own business pretty much my whole life, trying to do something, whether that's been floor laying or throughout some other stuff, but mainly the floor laying. And he had an old unit where he used to store some materials, and it was getting out to the point where that time period was over and he needs to find somewhere new. Obviously, at this time as well, I've exhausted every resource I could. I've asked everyone possible to get coaching again, but it's just not happening. The only way that I'm actually gonna be able to get coaching again is if me and my dad partner up together and get into a unit somehow. Now, with this time, I wanted it to be a little bit different, as previous situations I've been offered had definitely been a little bit one-sided and, well, definitely very beneficial on my part, but not so much theirs. So we actually managed to talk, discuss, and work out a way of doing it that was mutually beneficial for both me and my dad, rather than just being very one-sided. We spent probably a good few months trying to actually find different units, looking around different ones, different places, different locations, trying to figure out all the different things that we would need and what would help make the gym best as possible. And that inevitably is when we stumbled onto this place. When we first got here, obviously it was completely barren and empty, and I'll see if I can find some pictures for you now and put them on screen. But once we had accepted and finalised on this place, we then just had to wait a couple of months before we could actually start getting the keys. That probably brings us up to probably about September or October of this year, I'd say, most likely middle of September. And then pretty much it was just all on me from there to go and buy all the kit, get it all sourced, get it all in, and actually start building the place up. But all of that didn't come with any shortcomings or mistakes, and those I've made several of, and I'm sure I will continue to make. But ultimately, I'm going to take every single lesson, every mistake I make into my stride and learn from it. So for example, when we first got here, we got some lights, and as you can see, none of them are on now, but only a few of them actually work. I went to buy new lights, which I was going to try and buy LEDs, ended up not buying LEDs and bought some big tubes that are the same, which is mistake number one. We've learned from that. And then I also bought a trampoline that was too big for the space, which I'll jump in here right now, which ultimately led us to have to go back to mine, dig out the old trampoline, which you guys saw at the start of the video, and then put it back there. Those are the main mistakes, and to be honest, it wasn't anything too major, they're just little ones, but as I'm quickly finding out, there are a lot more realities to open a unit, and there's generally an ongoing list of things that constantly sort of need to be changed and done in order to improve, and I'm happy to work my way through that and make the gym better piece by piece. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither were sick gyms with good communities. But as long as we're laying a couple of bricks every week, getting those marginal gains, making slow improvements to get into the point we want, then I'm happy to make those gains piece by piece, year by year. For now, the intention with the gym is to get back to coaching people again, one-to-ones, getting them filled in regularly. And once I've got a little bit more demand, the plan will be to start to expand and do some classes, some open sessions, some private hire here and there. But that's what we're doing for now. However, once I've got a little bit more support and we've got a bit more equipment, we've got another coach on deck, then I'm definitely going to start looking into doing a lot more classes, a lot more open sessions, and even maybe start to host some kind of event. But those are all plans for the future, and the time for all those will come when they come. So with that being said, if you are someone who coaches and has done tricking, gymnastics, anything like that, and you're interested in getting involved in coaching, then don't be afraid to hesitate and send me a message on Instagram or by email. But also, if you live in the Kent and London area and you're looking to get coached, or you're looking just to come down and find a place you can do some training in, then also don't be afraid to send me a message on either Instagram or send me an email, and I'll get back to you and we'll be able to get something sorted and get you down the place. So that is pretty much the end of this story time. If you did manage to sit through all this and listen to me waffling on for a good little while now, then I thank you very much. I do really, really appreciate all your support, and I hope you enjoyed this video so far. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the page, and I shall be sure to see you guys in my next video. Peace.